There are countless rumors and eerie creepypasta stories floating around, often based on wartime experiments shrouded in mystery. But have you ever heard of the chilling tale about a sleep experiment, one that tests the very limits of the human mind and body? It's a story so disturbing, it might just keep you up at night. Let's dive into this terrifying legend. In the heart of the brutal winter of 1942, as the Soviet Union grappled with the relentless onslaught of Nazi invaders, a mysterious and horrific experiment was taking place in a secret Russian facility. Amidst the chaos of war, researchers embarked on an unsettling mission that would defy both human limits and sanity itself. The experiment began innocently enough. A group of 5 political prisoners, branded as enemies of the state, were chosen to test a newly developed gas that promised to keep them awake for 30 days. The setup was simple but cruel. Locked in a sealed chamber, they were provided with basic necessities: cots, dried food, a toilet, and enough books to pass the time. Oxygen levels were carefully monitored, as the gas was highly toxic in high concentrations. The prisoners were told they would be freed after completing the experiment, but this was a lie. They were nothing more than pawns in a cruel game, their lives disposable. For the first 5 days, the subjects hardly complained, their conversations light and casual. But as the days dragged on, their moods began to shift. Conversations turned darker, filled with traumatic memories and growing paranoia. By the 4th day, they had stopped speaking to each other and began whispering into microphones as though trying to communicate with the unseen researchers. It was clear that the gas was starting to take its toll. By day 9, the first of them snapped. Screaming wildly, he ran the length of the chamber, his voice cracking with agony. But his screams were futile. The others, eerily silent, didn't even react. They began to rip pages from the books, smearing them with their own feces and placing them on the glass windows as if trying to block out the world. It was on the 14th day that the researchers, desperate for a response, used the intercom to communicate with the subjects. To their horror, a calm voice responded, "We no longer want to be freed." This was only the beginning of the nightmare. At midnight on the 15th day, the chamber was opened and soldiers rushed in to retrieve the test subjects. What they found was nothing short of a living hell. 4 of the 5 subjects were still alive, but they were no longer human in any recognizable sense. The chamber was a grotesque scene of blood, flesh, and horror. The subjects had torn chunks of flesh from their own bodies, stuffing the remains into the drains. What remained was horrifying. Eviscerated bodies with exposed bones, organs removed and scattered around the floor. But the most terrifying discovery was that the surviving subjects were still alive, digesting their own flesh. The soldiers recoiled in horror as they attempted to remove the test subjects. One soldier was killed, his throat ripped out by a surviving subject, while others were gravely injured. The surviving subjects put up a violent struggle, demanding to be put back into the chamber, begging for the gas to be turned back on. They screamed for the stimulant, as if the only thing that could keep them alive was the very substance that had driven them mad. The medical team struggled to sedate the remaining subjects, but they were immune to the drugs. Even after one subject had bled out from a ruptured spleen, his heart continued to beat for 2 minutes. His body somehow refusing to die, still writhing in a desperate, animalistic struggle. It wasn't until the heart finally stopped that the doctors could confirm his death. But the nightmare wasn't over. The surviving test subjects, those who still had the ability to speak, were all desperate to stay awake. Their bodies were a mess of shredded skin and broken bones, yet they begged for more gas, more time. their only desire to remain conscious. One of them, despite being severely injured, managed to write a chilling message: "Keep cutting." As the experiment spiraled further into madness, the researchers found themselves trapped in a nightmare of their own making. One by one, the subjects were restrained and placed back into the chamber. Their bodies, still twitching with life, showed no signs of the exhaustion that should have come with over 2 weeks of sleeplessness. One subject, humming constantly, struggled against his restraints as his brainwaves showed patterns that shouldn't have been possible. Then came the moment that no one could have prepared for. The last of the surviving subjects, his body a grotesque shell, looked at the researchers and smiled a terrifying, knowing smile. When asked what he was, he responded with a chilling, cryptic statement: "We are you. We are the madness that lurks within you all." In that moment, the researchers realized that the real horror wasn't the experiment itself, but what they had uncovered within themselves, the madness that could no longer be silenced. As the soldiers closed the chamber doors, one researcher, driven to the edge of insanity, drew his weapon and shot the commander. He turned the gun on the mute subject and blew his brains out before pointing it at the final survivor. "I won't be locked in here with these things. Not with you," he screamed. But the subject only smiled, his final words haunting the room. So nearly free. The experiment was officially deemed a failure, but the true cost of the experiment, what it uncovered in the depths of human nature, remained a mystery, lost forever behind sealed doors. The madness, it seemed, was not just contained in the chamber, it was inside us all, waiting to be set free. That creepypasta is truly one of the most unsettling stories out there, and it leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew about the human mind and survival. But do you think it's real? Could something like this have happened? Or is it just an urban legend designed to haunt our darkest fears? Let me know what you think.